We spend so much of our lives trapped in cycles we never consciously chose. We judge ourselves through the same harsh lens we learned as children. We believe things about who we are and what we deserve that were never truly ours to begin with. I picked up The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz because I'd heard it could help dismantle limiting beliefs and break free from social conditioning. What I didn't expect was how this self-development book would reveal just how many agreements you make with yourself without even realizing it. Agreements that quietly steal your personal freedom. When I first opened The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, I thought I was getting a typical self-help manual. Instead, what Ruiz offers is something far more profound, a roadmap to undoing the negative beliefs we've absorbed since childhood and reclaiming the life-changing principles that lead to real freedom and happiness. The book is rooted in ancient Toltec wisdom, and Ruiz writes with the clarity of someone who has deeply understood how we become domesticated by our own minds. He explains that from the moment we're born, we're taught a specific way to see the world, how to behave, what to believe, what to want. And in that process, we create an inner judge that constantly evaluates us, condemns us, and keeps us small. The Four Agreements aren't just suggestions, they're invitations to transform your mindset entirely. They're about waking up from the dream of suffering we've been conditioned to live in and stepping into something truer. Ruiz doesn't promise easy answers, but he does promise something better. A path toward unlocking your dream life by dismantling the very foundation of self-judgment and fear. What really struck me about this book was how Ruiz frames our entire existence as a kind of dream, not in a mystical sense, but in the sense that we're living inside stories we've been told and have come to believe. He explains that as children, we absorb everything, the beliefs of our parents, our teachers, our culture. We learn what's good and bad, what's acceptable and what's shameful. And without realizing it, we make agreements with ourselves based on these beliefs. The problem is, most of these agreements are rooted in fear and limitation. They tell us we're not enough, that we need to prove ourselves, that we must control everything to be safe. Ruiz calls this domestication, and it's one of the most powerful concepts I've encountered. We domesticate ourselves just as we domesticate animals, through reward and punishment, approval and rejection. The inner judge becomes the enforcer of these agreements, and the result is a life spent trying to meet impossible standards while punishing ourselves for every perceived failure. The first agreement Ruiz offers is, be impeccable with your word. At first, this sounds simple. Just tell the truth, right? But Ruiz goes deeper. He explains that words are not just sounds, they carry energy and intention. When you speak against yourself, when you gossip, when you use language to spread negativity, you're casting spells of suffering. Being impeccable with your word means using language to create beauty, truth, and love, not just externally, but internally. It means refusing to participate in the inner dialogue that tears you down. I found this incredibly liberating because it made me realize how much I had been weaponizing my own thoughts against myself. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. Ruiz argues that nothing others do is actually about you. It's about them. When someone insults you, rejects you, or even praises you, They're speaking from their own dream, their own conditioning. What they say reflects their beliefs, their wounds, their reality, not yours. This idea was hard for me to fully absorb at first, but once I started applying it, I felt a weight lift. I stopped making other people's reactions a referendum on my worth. I stopped carrying the burden of everyone else's projections. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. Ruiz explains that we constantly make assumptions about what others think, what they mean, and what will happen next. And these assumptions become sources of immense suffering. Instead of asking questions or seeking clarity, we fill in the blanks with our fears and insecurities, and then we react as if our assumptions were facts. I loved how Ruiz encourages us to have the courage to ask and to express what we really want. It's such a simple practice, but it dissolves so much unnecessary drama and pain. The fourth agreement is always do your best. But Ruiz is careful to define what your best really means. It's not about perfection. It's not about pushing yourself to exhaustion. Your best will vary from day to day, moment to moment. Some days your best will be extraordinary. Other days, it will be simply getting through. What matters is that you show up fully, without self-judgment, and without attachment to the outcome. This agreement transforms effort from a burden into an act of self-love. The four agreements isn't about adding more rules to your life. It's about unraveling the ones that were never meant for you. Ruiz makes it clear that these four principles, when practiced consistently, can lead to what he calls personal freedom, a state where you're no longer controlled by fear, no longer enslaved by the opinions of others, no longer at war with yourself. You begin to live from a place of authenticity, clarity, and peace. The book helped me see that transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about shedding the false beliefs that have kept you from being who you truly are. If you apply these agreements daily, speaking with integrity, releasing the need for external validation, seeking clarity instead of assuming the worst, and honoring your own efforts without judgment, you start to experience a different kind of life. One where you're no longer trapped in the small, fearful dream you inherited. One where you're awake, free, and finally at home in yourself. If this resonated with you, like and subscribe for more book breakdowns and mindset insights from the Well-Read Club.